welcome back. It's Traveling Mike, and today we're on the road between Houston and Austin. And anyone that lives out this way knows that Giddings is about halfway between it. And we're going to stop at the Giddings Cemetery and check out what's going on over there. There is a infamous outlaw buried there that I bet no one knows about, as many people travel this route. So we'll check his grave out and let you know about that and any other interesting facts we find along the way. Right off, we find a couple of headstones here that have the gates to eternity open and books of life on top. Welcome to the Giddings City Cemetery. We're going to walk around through here and see what we can find. Thanks for joining me. Here's an interesting family gravesite. Looks like about 10, I think, 9, 10 headstones, all look alike, matching. This is a common monument headstone you see in a lot of older cemeteries. The columns with an arch over it represents a gateway into eternity. Ooh, over here's a cool looking monument for a World War I soldier. Here's another one that has the dove with the olive branches in it, which represent peace and hope. This is a tree which has been cut down, which represents mortality and being cut down in the prime of life. Across the street over here is some interesting ones. Let's go check them out. Here's a headstone, and the column next to it also has the clasped hands, and I mentioned in one of my other videos that represents God welcoming the departed home. However, you have to look at what is on the headstone, and sometimes you have to look real close at the hands, because sometimes it'll be a man and a woman's hand, which means the departed was a spouse, or sometimes it's the departed of a loved one, like maybe a son or a daughter, so they're saying goodbye. So this one has like a male and female hand in it. This has an angel sitting on a casket, which represents the angel protecting the burial site of the departed. And another weeping willow, which means sorrow. Here's one we haven't seen for a while. It's the hand pointing down, which means God reaching down to the soul of the departed. Oh, here's a great one. This one has a tree, which means cut down in the prime of life, but it also has the big anchor, which represents the departed's steadfast hope in God's resurrection. And if you look on here also, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chopped off limbs, which means they had 6 children. When you see a double headstone like this, this means the 2 deceased have been rejoined in the afterlife. And here's another headstone for a baby, of course, with the lamb that represents innocence on it. This monument has a Texas plaque, historical plaque for Henry Redfield, and it lists all of his accomplishments as a fighter for Texas independence and Indian wars, and a whole list of battles he's been in. You can pause it and read them, or read real fast as I scroll by here. Another good example of columns with the arch above it for an entrance to the afterlife, and as well as having a Bible with the Book of Life in it in the middle. Well, somewhere around here has got to be the Outlaws Grave. Let me walk through the cemetery here and just enjoy the view as we search a little longer. The garland on the urn represents victory of redemption, and the fully open rose means he died in the prime of life. Let me see if I can find this Outlaw Wild Bill Longley's grave. Oh, there it is. This is the grave of William Preston Longley. He is also known as the Outlaw Wild Bill Longley, or sometimes Bad Bill Longley. He was known to have a temper and drank a lot, so I think that's what caused it. He had killed 32 people out here and was finally captured in 1877 and tried for murder. He was hanged here in Giddings and then buried here at the cemetery in 1878. Most of the people he killed were black Union soldiers, and during the Reconstruction period of Texas after the Civil War, he saw those as occupying forces in his homeland, and so he didn't really like them anyway. So he's buried here, and originally he was not allowed to be in this cemetery, and this grave was actually outside the city cemetery limits. But as you can see, the cemetery has grown and it has finally encompassed his grave as well. As you can also see, my car is parked right there. After I walked all the cemetery, I found the grave right next to my car. Wild Bill Longley's grave was marked with a petrified wood stone here, but as late as the 1970s, this stone was actually about 24 inches high, but now it's only 8 inches high. Souvenir hunters have been chipping away at it for a lot of years, and so this is all that's left. Here's a headstone that's got interesting features on it. It's a 14-year-old girl. As you can see, there's the heavenly gates which are open for her eternity. It has a half-open rose, which means it's a teenager who's died, and her name is written on the Book of Life on top. And it's also written in German. Here's some German headstones. Auf Wiedersehen. As you can see, there's a large German section over here in this cemetery. There's a lot of German settlers that came to Texas in its early years, and so there's still a lot of Germans in the central Texas area. Here's an interesting headstone for a soldier from World War I. As you can see on the back, it has a relief of his weapon and battle gear all being laid aside because he's no longer needed. His time is over for fighting. And as you can see by the dates, he died just less than 1 month before the end of World War I. Okay, we're leaving the cemetery. I hope you enjoyed it. As a funeral director, I've spent a lot of time out in these little cemeteries. And I won't even bother you with my joke of the day, which is, as a funeral director, people are just dying to meet me. See you next time.